Welcome into the Dad Verb Podcast. Excited to be here today on this episode. We're going to be catching up with you guys here, and we're going to be chatting about fostering a love for reading, trying to get our kids to read a little bit more, talking about positive parenting discipline techniques, which is something that I'm actually currently kind of struggling with. So this might be more of an episode of me asking for help and the like. And then we'll be sharing my kind of experiences with some news that I had recently. But first, we got to do our sick check. I'm joined by my co-host, Ben and Andrew Saunders. How you guys doing? And how's everyone with their health? Ben, let's start with you, man.
Good. We're doing really well in our household. Fortunately, we actually all just got over some additional sicknesses. So over the last couple episodes I've shared, my daughter has started daycare. And we think there was a bout of RSV that went through our house. Everybody had, cough, RSV. Cold, just generally uncomfortable. But fortunately, hers was, if it was that, it was super mild, just cough, boogers, light temperature, and we're all kind of on the up and up. But now she's decided to sprout a couple of top teeth. So as soon as we're done being sick, now we're pulling in some new incisors. So
lucky you.
Like it's been an interesting couple
teething for
days.
over a month here. I'm ready for that to be done. She's not pushing those puppies in quick.
So how's everything with you, Andrew?
We're good.
That's awesome.
Mom has a little bit of the sniffles, maybe hay fever, maybe just moving blues, right? House full of new dust. Who knows? She's not sick, but she's definitely doing the dry cough all the time thing. So that's going on. Kids are good, but the youngest one she just got the bottom two. And she's working on some other ones. And so it's nothing but frozen fruit and ice cubes and screaming in my life when it comes to teething. So
I know how that goes. Well, on my end, our kids have been healthy-ish. Just today, more like yesterday, it sounded like just coughing incessantly. I'm like, oh, here it goes. Here we go. This is about to start. And then today there was not. So was that a false alarm? So I don't know, but for the most part, I think that we're good. We're without incident. No. And I do have to say, as usual, on my end, there's a delay with the Wi-Fi. So if there's any sort of awkward pauses with Ben and Andrew getting back to any sort of, or there's us talking over each other, which always happens, that's my fault. It's entirely my fault. So go ahead and expect that. The only person who's kind of sick, is not really sick, would be me. And it's because I'm recovering from getting the snip. Got my vasectomy on Friday. And I am... we're officially done with our kiddos. This is a decision that I've actually said that I would do back in 2017 when we had our first. Hey, when we're done, I'm getting the snip. So maybe we'll do a full episode about that. I know, Ben, that was kind of wasn't that something that you talked about as well?
Yeah. My buddy just got his done. A couple of mine have had theirs done, and I am trying to get mine scheduled before the end of the year because we also have decided we are done at 2. So. My wife has been through enough. It's time for me to step up and, go into the knife a little bit for to make our family plans a little more solid.
Dude, here so fun thing.
Decision after March.
I didn't live stream the whole thing, but I do have the whole procedure on camera. And I had a mic on me, and I was basically looking at the camera the whole time and just talking about my entire experience. And I don't know how to edit this so that I don't get some sort of strike on my account and get demonetized on YouTube. But I'm trying to figure it out because I think it's gonna be a helpful video. I mean, the video's still in progress. I've been doing a daily diary of kind of okay, here's what I'm feeling, here's the recovery, here's what it is. So but overall, really tolerable. The procedure itself.
I think you put that up on the course.
That would be actually a really, really good thing. In case guys are interested in that, I should cut that for the course as well and upload it. I do need to make some uploads to the course on that note. But yeah, the procedure itself was literally 10 minutes. My full video from beginning to end was 13 minutes. So it was a 10-minute procedure, and it like the worst it felt for me was the equivalent of like someone kind of taking a rubber band and stretching it a bit and then just kind of like lightly like flinging it on you. It wasn't even that bad. Like I didn't really wince. I like looked at the playback and I was like, this isn't that bad. So for me, my experience has actually been really positive. No pain, a little discomfort post, but for the most part, pretty good. If you guys have any questions about it, you comment on YouTube or whatever. But yeah, I'd say overall pretty positive experience. It was, it wasn't scalpel. It was a tool that they used, and I'll go over the whole thing, but it was really a good experience. And there was just like no pain at all. So
I feel like Andrew just got done describing that scene from The Sopranos where Tony Soprano's like, this guy just won't break. And he calls up Hesh, and Hesh goes, finish his bris. And Tony goes, really? He goes, yeah. And then, like, the guy finally breaks and gives them what they want. Like, that was what you just described. That entire... Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I keep hearing is the thought of it is scarier than the experience.
That's exactly it. That's exactly right. So it's you leading up to it, it's just kind of scary, and honestly, the lead up for me wasn't even that bad because I've been so bogged down with like work. I do like so much like freelance video work for different clients, and I've just been so underwater that like Friday morning came, I'm like, oh, damn, I gotta go. So I like totally, it almost like slipped my radar. So my wife was there, and it was good. So anyway.
She's going, you are not blowing off this doctor's appointment. You will go.
So yeah, I got to wait like a few months for like the all clear. I have to go back and like, I think it's like 8 to 12 weeks, something like that.
To go and do a test.
And got to do the test to make sure that, I'm firing blanks. Until then, got to keep using, the condoms and all that stuff, lest we have an So it's still pretty exciting. So just been icing the balls. So
yeah. Hey man,
excellent way to start the podcast.
You get
I'm glad that was
some extra couch time. That's not too bad,
dude. Right. Yeah, it's been. It's what's been so hard is I feel guilty. If I'm not like engaging, and I'm just like literally sitting there. I was just sitting there playing Zelda, doing whatever. Like the doctor's like, you can't lift anything over 10 pounds. Like I'm sure I'll be fine, but like I'm like scared that like my little stitch will like come under. I don't know, something's gonna happen because the way that they did it was they snit the vas deferens, and then one end is cauterized and the other end they actually stitched. And the reason that they did that is, for at least their technique, is in case it wanted to be reversed, there's a possibility that they could like reverse it. And I was like, how about we never have that possibility? Because we're sure we're done. He's like, it's just the way we do it. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But yeah, there's like a little stitch. It's dissolvable and all that. And then they weigh that they like snip it, and then they like hide it under this one like layer of tissue or whatever, and then they stitch. So it's a really interesting. It was actually really fascinating. It was fun, but. Anyway, yeah, I've been sitting around doing nothing, playing Zelda, just chilling, playing a lot of Marvel Snap, and and just like really relaxing because the first couple of days were tender. And every time I get up, I was just like, ugh. So, but yeah, no, I feel like I'm in a pretty good state right now. But anyway, if we're cool, let's dive into our first segment here, and let's dive into positive discipline techniques. Now, this is something that I continue to struggle with because it's really hard when you have just like these rowdy kids, rowdy toddlers that you just get on your nerves, man. You're just like, what the heck's going on? And you have to tread this balance of, setting them straight, teaching them what's right, what's wrong, what to do, what not to do without, spanking or because yelling can only get you so far, and when your kid it's a difference when your kid respects you, and then there's a difference when your kid fears you. You know what I mean? And for us, just because they're in line and obeying, it's like, oh, they're respecting, they're understanding, but are they doing that because they respect you or because they fear you? And that's where I'm currently struggling with with Colin in particular, my middle. I just feel like I don't know how to talk to him in a way. I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I feel like my other two, I'm like, I got this. I don't know. So like for you guys, obviously, you know, the day to day, it's hard, but positive discipline techniques. What are some ways that you guys go about that? Please teach me how I can reach my kid better.
The 3-month-old really, or the 6-month-old really doesn't respond well to any verbal cues at this point. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with that one's out, and nothing coming from her.
Yeah, I mean, discipline is, and nothing's gonna happen before like the age of like 2. I feel like there's just no like, it's kind of hard to teach, you know.
I mean, we've got a lot. So our oldest is coming up on 19 months, 20 months. She was born in February, so 19 months ish. Anyway, she will respond to no, and she's starting to comprehend all of the like, you can't touch that. That's dad's. Like, that's dad's works really well, and she hasn't started the rebellion yet. Where we're at is I don't want to do what you said, but I don't have another response, so I just flop on the floor and scream.
Yeah.
And that's the one that's like, I didn't say you couldn't keep going down the stairs. I said you can't pick up the screwdriver from the shelf by the stairs, right? Like, this isn't the moment to lay down on the stairs. We're all trying to go downstairs. So that's where we're struggling, but it's, I don't know. We're trying
like
our best to explain things. Here's why.
I feel like one of the main tips that I heard when I think it was from, maybe it was Big Little Feelings, but it's in some of those moments, our default is to automatically tell them what they can't do. You know, don't put that in your mouth. Don't do that. And I think one redirect was to try to tell them what they can do. Right. So instead of like, you know, if they're constantly like chewing up certain, like, I don't know, toys or whatever, you don't want them like chewing up toys, instead of like, don't do that. Stop that. Don't do that. It's more just kind of like, hey, this isn't for chewing, it's for, and then, you know, it's for playing like this, and you demonstrate, or, you know, there are ways to redirect and tell them what they are allowed to do with certain things, instead of, you know, slapping and making noise. What they can do instead is to, and then, you know, showing just an alternate way.
Yeah.
I tell you what, my nephews didn't hear the word no until they hit kindergarten. Their teachers were the first ones to tell them no, they couldn't do something, and that was a nightmare. Those two boys to this day do not understand the concept of stop and no. Like, funny little anecdote, and then I'll give Ben a chance here. We went to a family vacation. They were playing with pool noodles and having a pool noodle fight, right? As you do as a 8-year-old boy. Anyway, and they hit me with the pool noodle, and I said, if you hit me with that pool noodle again, I'm going to take it from you, and I'm going to hit you with the pool noodle. And they thought that was hysterical. So they hit me with the pool noodle, and I grabbed it, and I smacked him with it, and he was like, what just happened to me? And his dad goes, he warned you. That's called a consequence. And mom is over there like, you just hit my kid with a pool noodle. And dad's like, no, he said exactly what was going to happen. And it was, right? Okay, 9-year-old kid. I didn't spank him. I hit him with a pool noodle. Calm down, internet. He's fine. There were not even a mark. Yeah. But it was a moment in this kid who had not heard no for most of his life. So anyway, sorry, just a weird
parents. That's that's late. Like, gosh, man. Yeah, that's definitely late. I think
it gets worse. Mom won't let her kids do chores.
That's weird.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, they don't know how to pick everything up. They don't have chores. Not a thing.
Yeah, no, you're doing a disservice to your kids. You're raising some messed up kids, man. So, anyone who's listening to this podcast, like, don't wait. Luckily, like 100% of the listeners of this podcast are, well, I say almost 100%. Like, they don't have kids that are like they're all younger. So like, obviously, getting on the ground level early on, you got to start instilling that stuff early on, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like the Instagram moms, they would instantly just be like, I don't know. I feel like it's just the difference between dads and moms when it comes to like consequence and all that.
Okay. We got to give Ben a moment here, but remind me about Old Dads, the movie.
I do want to see that one. That's on my list of stuff I want to watch.
That's Bill Burr, right?
So in our household, so my kids are between your two kids' ages, right? So my son is 3. Our daughter is 8 months. She'll be 9 months next month. So with her, there's not a lot of discipline. She's starting to hear the word no just because she's exploring a lot. So she's opening cabinets, she's opening drawers. So we're having to teach. The first one is gentle hands. So the grabbing, pulling, right? Like she doesn't know her own strength. So we're learning gentle hands and how to be nice to people. The second one is, no, that's not safe or whatnot. For the most part, we let her explore and figure things out. But if we get to a point where there's something dangerous, then obviously we say no. The challenging one is our 3-year-old. Incredibly smart, lots of big feelings, really picks up on behavior and emulates. And so one of the big things early on we found is like in those moments where we were super frustrated with him and we started to raise our voice, where he would like escalate, right? Like he would kind of give something to us. He'd start pushing a boundary. And I would think, maybe raising my voice is going to kind of knock him out of this idea that he can just do whatever he wants. He learned really quickly that he can yell back, right? So as soon as somebody raises their voice, he just gives it right back. Like there's no fear. And one, I actually think that's a good thing, right? He's not afraid of being like physically harmed. And so he's really learning and understanding his boundaries at that point of like, what am I okay to do inside the house? Like, is it okay for me to yell? And that's a big thing that we realize is like yelling isn't going to help. As frustrated as I am in the moment, as angry as I am, yelling at him is not going to make it any better, because he's either going to yell back or he's going to withdraw into himself and he's not going to trust me at that point. And so one of the big things we say in our house all the time, and I say this to my kids constantly, is if I'm asking my son not to do something, I will ask him what my number one job is. Say, Lincoln, what's my number one job? And he has to repeat back to me to keep me safe, because that's my number one job, is to keep him safe. And so then I proceed to explain to him, okay, the thing you're doing isn't safe. Either here's an alternative, right? A redirect. You can do X, Y, or Z. You can't swing your wooden sword at your sister's head. Like we can, but we can do this instead, right? Like she can play this kind of game. You can't wrestle with her. You can't do these other things. So we'll try to redirect him to something a little bit more positive. And one of the things that we found works really well, and I think is the biggest challenge that we talk about a lot on this podcast, is in the moments where I want to raise my voice or lose my cool or yell at him, either one, he's going to mirror that straight to me. But he also has an opportunity, and I have an opportunity for him to mirror a positive behavior. So the other morning, I'll give you an example. The other morning, I'm changing my daughter. I'm getting the kids ready for school. We are like 40 minutes late for where we need to be. Like I'm trying to get to my office. I'm trying to get the kids hustled out the door. And I look over and my 3-year-old is getting himself undressed. Like I just got him dressed. He is now taking his clothes off. And the logic in his head was he needs to eat breakfast. He doesn't want to get breakfast food on his wake up clothes. So he wants to put his pajamas back on so that those can get dirty so that he can then have clean clothes
That's
to go to
actually pretty
school.
smart,
so, like,
though.
the thought process isn't wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's not wrong. But in the moment where I'm like, I have a screaming 8-month-old, he's looking at me and just taking his pants off. And I'm like, it's just chaos. And we felt it. So I was like, Lincoln, stop getting undressed, stop getting undressed. I kept saying it over and over and over again. No. And he kept getting more frustrated. No, Dad, I want to put my clothes on so that I don't get them dirty, blah, blah, blah. And it just kept like, okay, one up. And each of us kept getting louder and louder. until he yelled at me. Like he just let fly with like this, everything he had in his little body yelling at me because I wasn't listening to what he had to say. And in that moment, I turned around and I took a deep breath and I was ready to just lay into him. And the first two words got out and I went, Lincoln, and as soon as I felt that happen, and this has taken until now to be able to do this.
Yeah.
But as soon as that yell started, something in my brain said, this is not what you want to do. Because like this isn't going to work. It's not going to make any difference. I'm going to scream at him. He's going to cry. Right. It's going to break down the relationship. Like it's not good. And I was able to stop myself and I did exactly what I tell him to do. I stopped. I turned around. I kept doing what I was doing. And I counted from 5. I took 3 big, deep breaths. And he looked at me and said, Dad, what are you doing? I said, I'm very upset. I'm taking a breath so that I can reset before I talk to you again. And it just took the whole thing down a couple notches. And I said, explain to me why you're not putting your clothes on. And then he explained it and he was like, okay. And I said, you know what? Why don't we eat something that's not messy? And then we can wear our wake up clothes. And it was just that. And he was like, oh, okay. And he got his clothes back on. We went downstairs. We were still super late, but we got out the door and everything was fine. And so using things like that and trying to practice them over and over again of like, if I'm telling my kid he needs to take a deep breath when he's upset, I need to be doing the same thing.
Right.
And it sounds like hokey, but the more I do it, the more I'm able to catch those moments where I'm like, I feel that stress or anxiety or that escalation. And I can go, okay, like, how can we fix this? Like, one, is it a big deal, which we've talked about a couple times on the podcast? Like, is it really worth me getting mad about, or is just like an ego thing or a respect thing or whatever?
Yeah.
Or is there a different way I can handle this by like reframing it, calming myself down, showing him that you have the ability to control yourself and then finding another path forward?
Yeah, that takes a lot of time to be able to build up that understanding within yourself, to basically like rage quit on a rage, and just like breathe a little bit. That takes a lot of time, and I commend you on that, because that's not something that
it doesn't work most of the time. There's a lot of times where like you get to that point and I just want to yell and it comes out. But what I've figured out is every time I've yelled, I immediately regret it. Because you see your kid just like deflate and you're like, oh man. And then you got to go through, one thing we can talk about, I put some resources in the show notes, but one thing we can talk about is this idea of repair. So when like we're going to make mistakes, parents yell, everybody's going to yell at some point at their kid and you're going to probably feel terrible about it. And it's what you do next that matters. So, sometimes it's not even the discipline in the moment. It's like, okay, we all went overboard. How do we fix it?
Yeah.
Right.
And so I don't know if we want to jump into that or if you've got anything else you want to add, Andrew.
I mean, I do. Well, I was going to go. So I did want to point out one thing that, sorry, again, there's this delay on my end. I'm so sorry. It's really hard for me at the moment because with Henry, the kid has always been a very verbal kid and he can communicate his emotions effectively, what's bothering him, and there's a good back and forth. The problem that I'm currently having with Colin is he has always been just a nonverbal kid, and that's always been a very difficult thing. And he has a very difficult time articulating feelings through words. I don't know if I guess that's in part because he's just delayed speech, all that. But like recently, I've done everything that I could to try to talk to him. Because this just sounds so bad, but like everything he does is just like wrong. Like everything, he just constantly just making the wrong choice. So like yesterday, for example, right? I'm getting him ready for his soccer game, right? And I'm in his room with him, and I'm getting him dressed. And I said, "Hey, buddy, let's come downstairs and follow me downstairs. And I'm gonna go ahead and get your shin guards on, okay?" He says, "All right." So I start going downstairs and I turn around and notice he's not following me. And and I'm like, where'd you? And then I go back up and he's in this closet right by the bathroom and he's like shuffling in between the two, just getting like a bunch of toys and like starts playing. And I'm just like, what disconnect happened? And then I said, and I took a knee and I tried to get on his level because that's just one thing that I've, always done. And it does work, just kind of get on their level. You don't want to stand down and talk to him. I got on his level, took a knee. I was like, hey, bud, do you remember what I asked you to do? And he just like, go downstairs and get my shin guards. I said, okay. And what did you do? And he goes, I play on my womb. I said, okay. Why did you do that? And he just goes, because. And then like, I don't know why. He just didn't want to, I don't know. So I'm like, buddy,
this
we're
seemed
running
more
late.
fun.
And mind you, I'm not angry or whatever. I mean, I feel like I feel like I've been kicked in the nuts, so I'm just in pain and also like trying to get down, get up and down. Like, I don't want to do this, so I'm just like calm. I'm like, listen, I just want to like just sit and relax. But here I am so I'm like calling. So I was just trying to understand him. It's like, so why did you do that? Just, where should you be? You should be downstairs getting your shin guards, right? Yeah. And then he starts to basically hyperventilate and then break down. And it's been like a recurring thing where I'm just like, okay, clearly I've done not like, I've never like hit him. Right. There's certainly been a fair share of like Colin, all that, let's go, let's hurry up. Right. Yeah. But I think it's gotten to this point where he fears me, and I hate that feeling, sometimes you can ask like, hey, are you going to a soccer game? Or my soccer game, I was like, I'm actually not going. I'm just going to get you dressed. He goes, woo. I'm like, damn, he doesn't want me at a soccer game, man. What the hell am I doing wrong? It's the
anticipation of your response.
I think that is what it is. And I feel like
not
with him,
it's anticipating whatever that is for him.
And I think the response has always been some form of a correction. Like, Colin, here's what I think what I've done too much is just like, here's what you've done wrong. Here's what you've done wrong. Here's what you've done wrong. Because like as adults, right, that's how you fix it, right? If you're watching game film for a football game, right, here's what you did.
Right.
You slid this way and you let your man through. That's what your problem was. Okay, I'll fix that. Okay, that's just not how kids process it, and that's specifically how Colin doesn't process it. Henry actually did fine with that, but. Yeah, I think that's where my struggle is. I feel like I default to a correction mode, and it's really gotten him to just like hate me for it. And mind you, this isn't from like hitting, smacking, or whatever. It's just like a constant. I'm the no dad, and I'm the correction dad, specifically with him. And that's where I feel like I need to dial that back. You know what I mean?
That's really tough. So I guess I'm gonna make an assumption here, right? Is Colin your more sort of like emotionally sensitive kid? Like just in general, does he seem to feel things a lot more?
Yeah,
so
big time.
One of the things I've noticed with our son, who is very similar, like he feels things really deeply. Yeah, is I think he picks up on anxiety and anxiousness a lot more quickly than I realized, because for me, I know when I'm anxious, like especially in the morning. So like I do morning routine for my kids. Like my wife leaves super early, so like I have to get both kids ready and out the door. And that's a very stressful time to like try to make it. Like my office is like an hour away. It's a long drive. There's a bunch of traffic. My anticipation is like, I got to get the kids to school, and then I'm going to go sit in traffic for an hour, and then I'm going to be late to work and try to take these calls like as I'm going in. And one thing I've noticed is that like my son is very adept at picking up on my anxiousness. So as soon as I'm anxious about something or I get stressed about something, that's when it feels like he like pokes the bear. Like he just pushes and pushes and pushes. And I think part of it is like in my anxiety, I'm also focused on a bunch of other things. So like I'm focused on his sister and his breakfast and this, that, and the other. And he's a kid that needs a lot of connection. Like he needs a lot of like FaceTime and connection and needs to really know that you're paying attention to him. And I think that's where some of these behaviors come from, is like either he doesn't feel like he's being heard, he picks up on my anxiety and just he feels it, and then the only way for him to get that out is to yell or like misbehave or do the opposite of what I'm asking, because that's also a time that like I'm going to give him a lot of attention if he does the opposite of what I'm asking, right? Like I'm going to sit down and go like, dude, come on.
Dude, it's wild that you actually said that, because it's so true. Like soccer, for example, right? Like we just want our kids to just be exposed to different sports and all that stuff. But like Colin, like it's very clear that he does not like sports, right? And I don't care. I don't care win, lose. I don't care. Katie is very much the parent who kind of gets loud on the sideline, and it's funny because there's one time where Colin goes up to her and he's like, "Do I have to score a goal today?" And Katie's like, "No, you don't have to score a goal. Like, of course not. You're like, that doesn't." And he's like, "Okay." And that anxiety that you talked about, when he feels that anxiety and the pressure, he becomes basically a shell of himself, and he just stops. He just like stops. Yeah. He does the complete opposite, right? And that
and that makes sense as to why he would have gone in and like picked out his toys rather than go get ready for the game, right? Like it's a distraction. It's a way to like walk away from the like I don't feel good about it, like Saunders said, anticipation of the challenge or whatever it is. He's feeling that anxiety, and so I kind of wonder too, like if he, like you said, if he feels a lot of anxiety but there's no way to articulate it, and so it's either I avoid it or like you worry about, you know, what's happening around you and things that are kind of out of your control, which is, I mean, that's a tough one to manage for a kid that young, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I know my wife has, I'm not gonna say difficulty controlling her emotions, but she definitely has these moments where her emotions are like, okay, here's a great example because it happened today.
They run hot.
They run hot. It's that time of the month, right? She's got both girls. One's got a dirty diaper. The other one isn't eating. I'm doing something somewhere else. I don't remember, like, I wasn't sleeping. Like, I was actively doing something. I don't remember what it was, but I'm moving into a house, so it was something semi-important. Anyway, and they're just going off, and I hear her, like, top of her lungs, right? What do you want? And it's like, okay, I need to stop what I'm doing and go that location.
Go check on that.
And I used to use the words dads are magic, right? Because I could walk in, pick up the girls, they'd stop crying and calm down. But I'm actually in a house with 3 very empathetic people. And it really is one of those situations where I just have to be calm, right? Take the little one over, figure out if it's food, poop, tired. I mean, she's only got 4 modes, right? I just got to check all the boxes. And then by the time I'm done with her, I can usually pick up the 18-month-old and go, okay, why are we upset? What do we need? Right. And by then mom is like off somewhere else calming down. And I think your son is exhibiting a lot of those same things, right? He doesn't know how to handle whatever his expectations of your emotions are. And he's just responding by avoidance, right? Because avoidance is the first tactic we all have run. And I had a buddy whose kid did exactly that for years. He would hide under tables anytime it got a little too emotionally heavy for him. He would go to a different room. We'd find him under a table, under a desk, he just went to a corner and hid. And it really took until he kind of hit puberty and a lot of, like, as bad as this is going to say, a lot of Uncle Andrew kind of poking the bear. Like, hey, I know I made fun of you and I know that was upsetting and I know you're under the table because I made fun of you, but come out here and let's, like, I'm not mad. No one's upset with you. Like, you're okay. We're not going to punish you. Right. And he had to intellectually walk him through it. And now if I throw like a verbal jab at him, he just turns around and spits him right back to me, right?
Right.
And he's made that leap emotionally. And it took him until he was 12, 13 to get there. Right.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's just hard, man. Colin is it's so tough, man. You know, the whole shin guard thing and all that, like that was just one example. Like there's just every hour there's some sort of request, and it's just kind of like, nah, I'm not gonna do that, you know. But if it's Henry, it's just like, I'm on it, Dad. You know, so it's just two different kids, and it's just hard when you you're not supposed to like pin them up against each other, but like, you know, it just naturally happens, you know. I'm like, damn it. So it's just so hard, man.
It sounds weird, but does he get alone time with you? Like, does he get one-on-one?
We do, but not enough. That definitely is something that I gotta push more, not just for him, but like literally for all of my kids.
Right.
But I think like with Henry, like there's more alone time. Like I play, you know, more card games with him, right? Because he just, he's more, I guess, communicative, right? Yeah. And there's an unrealized bias there. Right. It's like, right. I can communicate better with him. Though there, you know, it's just like shy kids at school, you know, they just get ignored, get pushed to the corner, and popular kids, you know, they just get the attention because they talk more. They've got the personality. Right. So, and I'm not saying that, you know, like my kid is just pushed to the corner and he's a shy, dumb kid, you know, like that's not what I'm saying. But, you know,
I mean, I think as you're a parent of multiples too, like, and this is the thing that, you know, as my kids get a little bit older and their personalities develop, you start to realize you are a human being with a personality, right? Like you have interests, you have wants, desires, you have ways of dealing with the world, and you will start to see those come out in your kids, and your kids will either have the complementary versions of that, right? Like the things that align you well to be able to work together as a team, or just there's an ease of interaction. Yeah. And then there will be one of your kids where it's just not it's not that you don't love them or that you think they're different or harder or whatever it is, but you just don't align with them as well as another human being.
Yeah. That's,
you know, and it may be their interests. It may just be, and that's something I think for parents is super hard to accept, because we're always told, you know, you got to love your kids the same. And it's not that the well of love is any different or any shallower for one kid over another, but you might relate to one a little bit easier than the other. And so, like you said, there's sort of this unrealized bias where you're like, oh, well, I'll just, you know, if I'm running out to the store, I'll just take Henry with me because it's just easier, right? Like it's just, I can, in your mind, you're still taking the load off of, you know, your partner, which is true. But for you, it's like, it's just easier to do some of those things. Like that's one of the things I've caught myself doing with our kids, and I'm trying to be better about it. Yeah, is it's obviously much easier to deal with the 8-month-old than it is the 3-year-old. And so for me, I'm funny. Like, right. I mean, she's so easy to deal with. So it's just like, oh, well, I'll put her to bed. I'll do her bath. I'll do this. I'll do that. Cause she's very cut and dry, right? Bathe her, feed her, change her, lay her down. She's good. You know, and nighttime routine for our 3-year-old is like an hour and a half. It takes a lot more work. And so it's trying to build that out of like, even though it's more difficult, I should challenge myself to take that on more. Because it actually ends up being easier for me than for my wife, just because of the way we kind of interact with our kids. Yeah. It's easier for me to put them down for bed at night because it's more kind of cut and dry of like, okay, we read a book, we brushed our teeth, we're good to go. 10 minutes, your lights are out. Love you, buddy. See you in the morning. You know, it's just less hectic.
Have you ever tried the like, don't say no? So I watched this a while ago, and my kids aren't old enough yet, but I have this plan already in place for you do a whole day where whatever request your kid makes, you just say yes.
Yeah, it's like a yes day. Yep.
I want to go to the park. Okay. Yeah. I want to eat. What do you want for dinner? Spaghetti tacos. I have no idea what that means, but I'm making it, right? Yeah. And so the thing that this person, the individual who's doing the post about it, said was, I realized how many decisions my kids make in a day and how most of them are decisions I would approve of. But there were a few, like spaghetti tacos, that I went with, all right, I'll make it. Is it something we're going to eat regularly? No.
Right.
But
Right.
was it a bad decision? Not really. I mean,
Right.
carbohydrates, taco shell, like spaghetti, like it's not
Yeah.
like you said, I want ice cream for dinner, right?
Yeah.
And so that might be one of those things where like you could take Colin out for 4 or 5 hours, right, on a Saturday,
And just have a yes day with him.
he gets what it's a yes thing for him, so that he feels empowered, and his experiences with dad are not corrections, and they're not no, right?
Yeah.
Like we can do whatever you want to do today, Colin, right? For the next few hours, it's all, and it's one-on-one time. So you two are bonding and getting closer, and you just have to have that conscious effort of whatever he wants, we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And make it happen. Does that make sense?
Oh no, it 100% makes sense. I have done some things like that to some extent, but I think really try and like embrace a longer period of it where I really just kind of, and rather than, in addition to just like saying yes to, some simple things, really just getting just more one-on-one time with him, because I feel like I don't have it. And when even for bedtime, it's I put them both down at the same time, and Henry just dominates. And there are times where I'm like, Henry, I'm down here with Colin, okay? Just let me talk to Colin. Like Henry has 1,000 questions. He just steamrolls his brother, and Katie and I sometimes just like, dude, Henry's just, and we love him. We love the kid so much. He's such a leader, but like he just steamrolls his brother on a daily basis, and it just like I'm like realizing that like, damn man, like we just
are they
give
in the
Henry
same
all
bedroom?
the attention. It sucks. Yeah, they're in the same bedroom. Yeah,
That maybe they need separate spaces.
Yes and no. That's a whole nother.
That sounds torturesome, right? And that's a whole thing for you, but but it might be one of those things where so and so goes to bed. Once they're asleep, the other one goes to bed, right? So that they get that unique time. But
listen, we've gone at length about me and my kids. Frankly, I'm probably gonna have to edit this down a little bit so that it's not gonna feel so one-sided, so lopsided. For anyone who wants any more resources, we're going to have them linked in the show notes of this video, as well as the comment section on the YouTube channel. You can check out Big Little Feelings, which is something that we've talked about a couple times already, whether you've seen that on the Dad Verb channel or on this podcast. And then Dr. Becky at Good Inside. You can find her on Instagram at Good Inside. I think she's got like a subscription. It's like $89 or something like that to get her course. Ben,
I do want to say, so she just released her recent TED Talk on repair with kids. She was able to get that. So if you subscribe to her podcast, one of her last episodes, if you kind of look back in the history, is about repairing with your children. So we talked through this long conversation about, sometimes no matter what, with positive discipline techniques, like you're going to lose your cool at some point as a parent. You're going to yell at your kid. You're going to feel terrible about it. How do you fix it? What happens next? Because that's the most important thing to avoid, isolation and shame and some of these other emotions that they might experience. And she gives some really good concrete steps on how to repair with yourself, right? I'm a good parent that had a hard moment, and I have a good kid that had a hard moment, and now we need to fix this. So one of the best, I think, talks I've heard about, kind of when discipline goes wrong and how to fix it once you've gotten through that process.
So we are going to have those, just a bunch of resources down below, for you. And Becky is really great because she'll be like walking around on like the streets of New York. She's like, I just had a fight with my daughter. Here's what I did. And then she like, breaks down like her mental process. So it's really cool. All things that, frankly, I need to work on. Okay, we've gone at length. Let's hit this next segment. Fostering a love for reading. Who wants to kick this off? I've spoken at length already. Any of you guys want to start off here?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I guess Andrew, your kids are a little bit older, as we've talked about, so they are probably reading on their own. I'm guessing Henry is at this point, and Colin's probably on his way. So with our 3-year-old, and not as much with our 8-month-old, we've been a little more lackadaisical with her, but we have read to our 3-year-old every night, except for I could probably count on one hand how many nights we haven't, because we've not been in the same physical location, but we have read to him every night since the day he was born. One of those things that we just made a part of bedtime routine, and it's sort of a non-negotiable, right? Unless we walk in and he's already passed out and we just have to put him down to bed. If we're awake and he's home and we're home, we will sit down and read a book together, usually 2-3 books. And then at some point, this is kind of a more recent thing, he has started to want to read after we've done the bedtime routine. And so what we do is we give him and he's 3, he can't read yet, but we give him the option. So we'll leave he's got a timer on his lamp. So we'll leave it on for 10 minutes where he can sit and look at books by himself as part of his bedtime routine. And just sort of, he has a knack for memorizing the book. So we read him a book once or twice and he can basically repeat the book back to us. And so he's really kind of, I think part of reading to him every night has really kind of upped his ability to assimilate vocabulary and cadence and tone and sentence structure and all of that. And so that's just something he does now. He'll sit and just read a book, quote, air quotes, in his bed. And when he doesn't know the words to a book, he'll actually come out and say Dad, can you read this to me? I don't know the words to this one. And it's because he hasn't memorized what's in the book yet.
Right. Right.
And so we'll see how that goes with our daughter. But it seems to be that when he's by himself and he wants to do something quiet, he'll pick up a book and bring it to his sister, or he'll pick up a book and go sit in his bed and read or do a puzzle or something like that. So we're hoping that is something that will carry forward in the future.
Definitely. I know, Andrew, your kiddos are a little bit younger, but I mean, have you kind of pushed anything?
We're still in the chewing on books phase for the most part.
Yeah, that's how it.
No, so we bought these they're called Indestructibles, and they're made of Tyvek. So they're books printed on Tyvek, and both of our daughters love to play with them. The older one is now figured out, at about I don't know, maybe 12, 13 months, she figured out how to turn pages. And so what we'll do is we'll sit and turn pages, but she doesn't have the attention span to listen to the story yet. So she'll want to turn the pages, but she doesn't want to wait for me to read what's on the page to her. And so I have opted for story time will show up when she kind of can sit through a whole book. Right. And cause I was with Ben, I really tried those first probably month to read to her every night. And at some point I was in a dark room reading children's books to a sleeping child to myself. And Ben, you're doing better than I am. Cause I'm this is ridiculous. So we're going to go with that, next page, but I'm already planning on I have all of Grimm's fairy tales, the originals, not the nice Disney versions, right?
All the real gory original ones.
Yes, my plan is to read the Greek myths in their entirety, right? I want my kid to show up in sophomore year of high school and be yeah, that's not how that fairy tale goes. This is some edited, adapted version. You're not correct. Beowulf doesn't happen like that. But so we're going to do it. I'm guessing it'll happen around 2 or 3. She's finally getting to the point where she understands how to turn the pages in order. And she's starting to point at the objects in the book as they relate to words that I'm saying. So we have one of those touch and feel duck books, and she'll finally where's the duck? There's the duck. Where's the duck's nose? Right. We're working on faces right now. So we're really good at ear, nose, eyes, mouth, teeth. working on teeth because sister's growing teeth. Yeah, so that's, again, we've taken a far more lackadaisical approach than Ben has to reading, but our daughter picks up and plays with her books probably every day, and she won't even watch TV, which is kind of good, I guess, for an 18-month-old to not, like, she won't zone in. I can't even put on Sesame Street or anything and have her be like, no interest. So that's going to be hard later, I'm sure, but
we pretty much covered the early stages. I mean, for us, it was kind of similar. We read to our boys every single night, and to Andrew's point, they weren't ready, so they would just start flicking through. Some nights they had like a bottle in their mouth and they'd be holding the bottle, so they gave me the opportunity to actually get through a book. But the early books, sticking with even just like simple picture books, where it would just have like bird, dog, cat, all that, like these books from like Love Every Kits. It was really nice, and then over time, it was just pure exposure. Sometimes they were into it, sometimes they weren't, but it was just pure exposure. And then Henry, I don't know about how to develop a good reader, but Henry just picked up. He just I'm ready to read. He just showed it. He just what does this say? How do you spell this? And he just wanted to read. And it's great. He's a reader now. We now play Pokemon a lot, and because now he reads each card and he's like, oh, it does this. And it's just amazing when you have a reader. It just opens up a whole new fun thing. And and Colin he's getting there. We read every single night, but what I've done with Colin as he's gotten older, is I ask him questions. So we had these little Paw Patrol books where Chase had to save Jake because the ice fell through. And then so I was like, so who had to save Jake? He's like, Chase did. So just understanding what's being told to him. So it's mini quizzes after each little page,
understanding the comprehension.
Yeah, making sure he's following along. Because that's the thing. If I just read through, I'll just lose the kids, and all of a sudden I'll just notice that they're just kind of staring off or dancing around, But if I, it's a good way to stay engaged. There's actual story happening here, and there's things to be learned. So it's every single night we'll read multiple books to the kids, and it's just exposure. But if you want good tips on how to get a ready reader, there's a good Instagram. It's a girl named Riley Lunt. She has an Instagram called Montessori by June. We'll have it linked, but she has a full course of basically reading preparation for pre-K toddler age kids. And she has a lot of great tips, but yeah, on Instagram, you can find her as Montessori at June. A lot of great tips there for sure. Guys, you guys have anything to add here? If not, we'll just kind of start closing things out and get into a Discord comment. Going once, going twice? No,
I'm good.
All right. Well, so we're just gonna migrate to a quick Discord and we'll close things out. Zach Young commented, I had a question with bottle feeding. Guys, we always have feeding questions, huh? I had a question with bottle feeding. I've been trying to find a way to feed my daughter.
It's a big topic.
It's obviously a big ongoing topic. I've been trying to find a way to feed my daughter, then her coughing, or a good. Wait. I'm misreading here. Apparently, the milk is falling into her neck during feeds.
Milk neck.
It smells so delicious. We've tried pacing, but she seems like she wants the whole nipple full of milk. So yeah, I guess we're having a dribble problem, and all that. I haven't seen comments on this. Has anyone chimed in on this?
Oh no, we went for an hour.
Good stuff. And sum that up for us, for anyone who isn't active in our Discord.
So the gist of it was Zach was struggling, or I'm assuming his name is Zach, was struggling to figure out how to hold his daughter, why she wasn't eating, when she would eat, if she was eating enough. I mean, it was basically all of the new dad, and it's ironic that I'm saying new dad because I had these same fears less than 2 years ago. But he was having all the like, how do I feed my kid and make sure my kid is getting enough food anxiety, right? And so I was just kind of talking him off the ledge. And I put it on here as a look, this is something every dad goes through, right? That first, how do I feed my kid? Are they getting enough food? We just did the baby Brezza thing last week or the week before, like, right. That's been on our list a couple of times. And so to articulate it shorter than I texted him, but longer than I probably need to. Your kid will tell you when they're hungry. They will make it fairly clear. There are obvious signs, right? Lip smacking, fussiness, restlessness. They will suck the nipple into their mouth most of the time and keep sucking on the nipple until they're done, right? I had a lot with our daughters. One of the ways I tested is they would stop, they'd take a break. They'd go for like a minute and then they'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna take a breather. And I'd slowly pull the bottle out and they'd suck it right back in and keep going, right? Just lots of little things that aren't part of baby mom's formula feeding TikTok video, right? I don't know why they don't provide this information, but I think a lot of it is we're overthinking it.
It is.
Your daughter, son will tell you when they need food, when they are full, right? I think for Zach, one of the things he was, at least from our chat, was struggling with was whether or not his daughter could breathe. And so that was a big thing for him. What angle should she be at? Where should the bottle be positioned? And I'm like, the pediatrician told me this in the hospital. Your child has all the tools necessary to eat and breathe. As long as there is not something obstructing their nose or mouth, they will puke it all up and they will breathe again, or they will, right? And you might be wearing it. That's a thing, but they will start to breathe again. So it's your job to make sure their nose is clear when they have that nipple in their mouth. And that is just a matter of paying attention. But we had a lot of conversation about like position, and I'm a football dad. Right, head went in the armpit,
there you go.
Feet at the thing, held the bottle. I got good enough. I could run the remote with the left hand, but it really was learning how to hold the bottle so that I didn't block a nostril, and getting a nipple with good vents was key. Anyway, I've pontificated enough on that one. It was about an hour-long conversation. Zach was very happy by the end of it, but it keeps coming up, and so I think it's going to be something that we're going to keep talking about because it's the first anxiety. It's a big anxiety, right? And if you don't do it right, bad things happen. So I just, for whatever reason, it keeps popping up regularly.
Well, guys,
Ben?
if you, go ahead, Ben. If
No,
you had any
nothing to add there. I mean, your kids will figure it out. The biggest thing is like when they first come out, they generally know how to eat, but maybe they have an issue latching, maybe their latch isn't deep enough, blah, blah, blah. Talk to a lactation consultant, talk to your pediatrician. As long as they are not concerned with how your child is progressing, don't worry about it. Some kids are just messier eaters. Some kids spit up more than others. It happens. My daughter spit up a lot more than our son. Nothing wrong with her. Just happened to be how she ate. Even now she gets a messier chin than, our son ever did. And that's just how it works out. It's perfectly okay. More often than not, you're not going to do anything to hurt them. Because you're careful, and if you care enough to ask the question, you care enough to be careful during the process, and are probably overthinking it, probably doing much better than you give yourself credit for.
Well, and a baby wipe to the neck will get rid of that cheese smell in a heartbeat. Just be regular about it.
You always got to be wiping that neck, guys. If you want to join our Discord community, you can follow the link in the description of this video. Thank you for listening to the Dad Verb Podcast. For all you new and expectant dads out there, don't miss the opportunity to check out dadverb.com for dad courses up through year 1 of fatherhood. It's a great valuable resource to help you on your way into parenthood, into fatherhood, and then you get free access to the Discord through that course. Special thanks to my hosts, Andrew Saunders, Ben Brown. Thank you again. And guys, show your support by liking, subscribing on YouTube, and leaving us some comments to read. Again, thank you for listening. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Dad Verb Podcast. Peace.